Yes, we were just in executive session, so I'd like to call a meeting back to order. And for verbal attendance of board members starting furthest to my left, please state your name for the record. Scott Nelson.
Jim Baumstark.
Julie Moon.
James Nolan. Alex Cameron.
All right, welcome. We are going to move along to our approval section. I'm going to ask for a motion and a second to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Also, I'd like an approval of the February 13th regular and executive session minutes. Is there a motion and a second?
So moved. Moon. Second.
It's a tie.
Got it.
Kitty, may I have a roll call?
Dolan.
Aye.
Stefani. Aye. Baumstark.
Aye.
Supos.
Aye.
Moon. Aye. Nelson.
Aye.
Kamalevich.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, we're moving on to our communications section. Dr. Deli?
Good evening, everyone. Nice to see everyone. We have several guests in the audience this evening, so that's always nice to have you join our business meeting tonight. And thanks for the new location. We have SpongeBob preparations going on downstairs. We didn't want to get in the way of that, so we've moved upstairs. I briefly this evening wanted to give the board and community a brief update on the SRO program that we've had in the district now since the beginning of the school year. As you may recall, the school district and the village of Glenview entered into an intergovernmental agreement for the purpose of school resource officers in our middle schools, as well as reciprocal reporting arrangements that went along with that. And we said we would come back for an update, and that's what we're going to do this evening. We're about 6 months into this program. Our objective from the beginning was to really take a soft start, more of a qualitative approach to incorporating the SROs into our educational ecosystem and having them really focus more on anything else than on developing relationships with staff and students and families. We said we would come back and share some qualitative and quantitative information. The information that we have tonight is going to be much more heavily qualitative for the reasons I just mentioned. But we said at the onset of the program that we would be tracking over time several different data points. So in addition to testimonials that we would get from students and staff and families, we would look more specifically at the frequency of interactions of students and school violations. And we think that, by the time the fall rolls around, we'll have a full year, really, that helps us create a better mosaic for how the model is going. But we'll be reporting back periodically on this. We think it's important. So what are people saying? We have, and I don't know the extent to which everyone has had a chance to meet Officer Nava, but Officer Nava is with us. Would you just like to stand up and be recognized? Thank you. Officer Nava is at Springman and has been since the start of the school year. We do have several testimonials here. I'll just read one. Officer Nava has been amazing. She takes an active role in our entire school. She has been working with our 8th grade ambassadors to promote kindness and respect throughout the school by offering up her time and resources to plan all of our school assemblies. The students are always excited to see her and spend time with her. There are others here as well. Likewise, Officer Kuntz is with us. Would you stand and be recognized? Officer Kuntz has made such a connection with the students. In this particular example, the ILS classroom, he comes by to say hello almost every day. He coordinated a meet and greet with a few officers and their vehicles, which I understand was a big hit, by the way, which just added another dimension to this building of culture, relationships within the building. I believe we have now a clip, do we not, Kathy? to share.
I want to know because she protects our school and she keeps us all safe.
Officer Cruz encourages us to get up and give recess, which helps us in the class, and we come in very laid back and chill, so I feel comfortable right here.
Thank you, Officer Nava, for bringing so much joy to our school.
Officer Cruz is a really awesome guy. He was everyone in the school, having a hard time, and he was
So as you can see, these officers are not positioned at a station in the front of the school, standing guard. I mean, they're certainly there in the event of a crisis, but that's not the primary reason they're there. They're in classrooms, they're working with students, they're working with staff, they're working with families, all in an effort to try to offset or prevent, to the extent that that can happen, bigger problems or bigger challenges from happening. We believe so far that the model has been successful. We're also not naive enough to say that it's in any way perfect. This is new for us. We had SROs in the district many years ago. It's been some time, so for us it was a renewal, but it was really starting from scratch in a lot of ways too. So we're always looking for ways to improve any system that we have, and this is no different. So to the extent that staff members or parents have any concerns, the best conduit for that is through the building principal. We do want to hear from you. We do have some quantitative data that we're working to establish. So we do have systems that track student behaviors and various kinds of incident reports. And so we will be delving into that more closely. We can tell you that out of 28 reports that were made, and these are police reports if you want to think about it more that way, only one was generated by the school resource officer. The others were generated by the school administration. And citations usually result in a civil proceeding, which is, the child and the family go before a judge, and this is for some type of illegal act that has been committed. And it's really through restorative practices that we're trying to intervene earlier with children. This isn't purely a punitive act and then move on. This is about calling out something that is clearly against the school rules, helping the child and the family understand what happened, what may have gone wrong, how to prevent it from happening again. And so far, we believe it's been successful. We do have the principals here this evening to maybe add a little bit more color to this as well. So would you like to step forward and maybe just introduce yourselves, and so everyone kind of knows who you are. Thank you. Thank you all for being here.
My name is Diana O'Donnell. I'm the proud principal of ATIA. I just wanted to thank, on the board's behalf, this opportunity for us to work with our Glenview Police Department. It has been a learning process, and I think over 6 months, it's a very short period of time, but I feel that this team and working together, we have actually made a lot of progress within our schools. One of our big things with both of these detectives and officer here is that our students look to them as trusted adults. They are ones to seek advice, ones to get help, ones to learn about a future career in helping others and serving a community. So there's so many positive aspects that have come from their role, and students feel comfortable. Teachers report that they feel safer. We only used a few snippets of here, but we collected data from all of our staff regarding the impact and the positive impact they're making on a school culture. And so I just want to, think in a very short period of time, we've made a lot of progress within having, disciplinary pieces. Students are more proactive, they're more positive, they're more aware of their surroundings, and to me, it feels overall that our students are even making better choices, which is what we want for our community to feel safe. I also really appreciate the due diligence and the routines that are established within their roles, making sure we're safe, checking all the doors, making sure we're secure. They have routines and patterns, and I've learned so much through this process, seeing things through a different lens, and I think that's what makes our team much stronger. So thank you, Detective Kuntz and Officer Nava. We really appreciate that. Megan, anything
And
to
I'm
add?
Megan Russell, principal at Springman. I echo everything that Mrs. O'Donnell is saying, and more. It seems quick. I can't believe it's been 6 months, but it also seems as if this program's been embedded in our building much longer than that. It was a quick acclimation, and I think the students, I will tell you, when Officer Nava is not in the building, we do have to put a sign on the door that Officer Nava is not there because she has so many visitors. And when they do come down and see me instead of her, they go, oh. And I'm like, I know, it's just me. It's the principal. How are you doing? Officer Nava will be back tomorrow. But, it's just truly, I think that right there, though, is a true testament to just how quickly within that culture we all have, and I know the same thing is happening at ATIA and going above and beyond, not just throughout the school day. You saw here, I believe Officer Kuntz over there is building a set for that SpongeBob, and the reason why we are up here today. You did see Officer Nava with a big bass drum on, and she does participate in those things, but well beyond that, just embedding herself within our day-to-day, being a coach and a mentor to our students alongside of our staff and modeling that, and making really quick and very deep level connections with our families, and supporting them above and beyond. It's not just the school day itself. So that wraparound support for our families and our community. We don't know what we would do without them. It feels like we've been together for a long time, but I can't imagine that we won't move forward even more in positive ways in just the way that they have brought such positivity to our building. And like Mrs. O'Donnell was saying, some of the things that we already had implemented in structures in place, bringing even more ideas to that. And it's as simple as at Springman. I think finally it's a pretty smooth drop-off and pick-up over there off of Washington. And I know no matter what school, anytime I have to drop my own children off, I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that. But it truly is much smoother just with a quick implementation and ideas on how to do that. So small things like that go a really long way throughout our day.
All right, question, Megan, I know we're still gathering qualitative data, like Dr. Debbie said, but do you guys get a sense that behaviors are improving? Is there a trend where kids are doing inappropriate things less often because they know that?
Yes, and I would say that they feel more confident and comfortable in reporting some behaviors that maybe weren't reported before.
I think that's a really big part of it, is that we are getting different information, different ways, so that we can address the students and actually act on something that helps others instead of them harming themselves.
That's great, thank you.
And I would say it's outside of our students too. We've had parents that feel comfortable in reporting things that maybe is brought home and then it's then brought to school so we can address it in real time.
That's fantastic, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything? Anybody else have anything you want to?
Before we approved the program last year, we talked about the fact that due to the volume of incidents, there was a large burden placed upon the school administration to gather information, prior to report, or I'm not sure of the specifics, but it's clearly a lot of work that can be done or be ameliorated by an SRO. And I know we're going to talk about data later on in the year, but to what extent have you seen that administrative burden, shift as part of this implementation?
I think overall, we just have less incidents so that it's not taking up our time. We still formalize, and we are the administrator, we still do all the investigations regarding our student. And so we are the first responders, and then depending on the level of incident, then we wrap around and our officers are a part of our safety team for some of our responses. But we're spending less time because our students, there's more visibility and more awareness and overall safety. And so I think that's helping us have less to tackle.
And I would say, I would add into that consistency as well as the individual. The Glenview Police Department was always very prompt, amazing to support us. Sometimes you would get different officers or different individuals that work during the day. Knowing our students, knowing our culture, knowing our buildings and our community, and having that consistency in approaching each incident or what may come their way, it has really helped us work together in streamlining it, and it is more effective, I would say, the way that we do approach any challenges or concerns that come. So I would say the burden is less, but I think it's because of the partnership and the consistency and how we approach each individual situation.
Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else? Thanks so much for coming. It's nice to meet you guys.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks. Next, we're coming to our audience comments. Anyone wishing to address the board can submit a comment card available at the check-in table and give it to the Executive Director of Communications and Strategic Planning, Kathy Kajigian. The Executive Director will call community members who submit cards forward. They will be asked to introduce themselves and describe their relationship with the district. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. And please know that the board will be taking notes, but we will be in a listening mode only. And an appropriate response will be given in a timely manner. We also ask that you submit one comment per opportunity. We will have another opportunity later. Kathy, do we have any comments?
We do. Casey Bratko, Lisa Sulek, and Angela Howard.
Hi, can I ask that everybody who speaks uses the microphone because we are broadcasting still?
Sure.
Yes, so.
Yeah, I'll do all the
other people can
talking.
hear it. Okay, great.
I just want to start by thanking the board and the cabinet for your time and your dedication to District 34. My name is Casey Bratko. I have been a first grade teacher at Westbrook School for 18 years, and I'm here to speak on behalf of our whole team, the first grade team at Westbrook. Our concern began when we saw that EL staffing was being cut at several buildings, ours included. We have a wonderfully large population of English language learners, and a growing number of those are brand new speakers who really do need significant daily support. And we were just left wondering how we'll be able to meet the needs of this growing population. We were also surprised and really saddened to see the cut of the primary enrichment position. We had actually hoped to see the program expand to include math, so we were disappointed instead to see it cut altogether. Primary enrichment is currently only a half-time position at each school, but the impact is really high as these teachers work directly with 165 children each week. And those 165 children are seen twice a week. That's a lot of time for a lot of kids. We'd like to speak a little bit to the importance and value of reading enrichment in the primary grades. Primary comes with perhaps the widest gap in levels of achievement. Of course, we all differentiate to meet all of these different needs. This is what we as teachers do all day, in every subject across the board. It's not a matter of knowing what to do to meet the needs of these different learners, just to be able to adequately do so as just one person. We want to be giving just as much time and attention to the needs of those working well above grade level as we do to those struggling to reach it. primary enrichment in reading really fills a critical need. We understand that we do not have limitless funds in our district, but cutting the teachers who work directly with students while leaving many positions who do not work directly with students just does not seem to be the right choice for our children. We're definitely not here to advocate for cutting other positions or the elimination of other programming, but in the spirit of trying to be solution-oriented, a few thoughts come to our mind. We value coaches, but the numbers keep rising. There are at least 26 coach-type positions in D34, and this just feels disproportionate to the needs of the staff in our district. It's a staff that includes a high number of skilled, veteran, highly qualified teachers. This was actually expressed last spring in the district's thought exchange. We don't want any positions to have to be cut, but we do understand the reality, so it just seems surprising that not one of those 26 positions was considered or cut, yet the entirety of primary enrichment, which is just 1.5 teachers, was eliminated. Professional development might be another area to look at. It is, of course, important, but there are some instances in which the allocation of funds towards certain PD seem to be excessive. For example, attending out-of-state events or conferences may hold value, but also include air travel and hotel, etc. And in the midst of these looming cuts, this might be an area to explore a little bit more. We thank you so much for your time and your consideration and listening. We know that these decisions are never, ever easy, and our thoughts tonight come from a place of genuine care for what's best for all of our students. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Tricia Muyoung.
Remind me again what I'm supposed to state before I speak.
Just your name and your connection to the district.
Okay, great. Okay. Good evening, everyone. So my name is Tricia Muyoung. I am a parent of a Glenview district at Pleasant Ridge student, 2 students in that district, and have been a resident of Glenview for over 13 years. I am also a physician who works in the area as well. So I came before the board. First of all, thank you for providing an update. It couldn't have come soon enough. Timely of the events that we're seeing happening in the Chicago public schools regarding, I'll get straight to the point, that SROs are being considered removed from those schools. There's tons of data. I'm not going to use my 3 minutes to recant all that and bring it up, but I just want to get to the things. One, that the benefit that they are able to make, quote, schools safer, and I should make the disclaimer, I'm not here to address specifically the SROs in our school in any slight. I'm not here to talk about apples, bad apples, good apples. I'm really here to talk as an advocate for my family and what I know about SROs. I would not like to have them continue in the school, so I'm going to make that statement in a very declarative way. My impetus for this is I see that the district is trying to be accountable to having qualitative and quantitative outcomes. I'm a researcher at heart. I understand these metrics help us make critical decisions, but qualitative, like videos, anecdotal relationships that are formed with the officers, stating in the proposal that approved the SROs that this is about building community relationships between our students and the community and police community providers like officers. The data is just not there. I do believe the board was not transparent enough about the rollout of this. It is true that my student is not yet, my child is not yet a student of ATIA, but he is graduating, coming from Pleasant Ridge, and will be here next year. So I have a lot of anxiety about this. He's a young black male. We are very honest in our home about what the relationships have been historically. I have to have those honest conversations as young as the age of 9 about that, not just because of the instance of recent during the George Floyd, but just historically being married to a black man, raising black boys. These conversations happen earlier than you think. So my son, hearing the context of that, walking into a school, perceiving police officers, that we don't tell him police officer bad, our friends are police officers. He plays sports with sons of police officers, so we're not here to promote a narrative that officers are not good for you. But back to the transparency piece. There is the nonverbal presence of an officer being in a building that may send different cues to different individuals in your school population, notably my son. I can be supportive to him, teachers can reassure him, he can become the officer's best friend. I get that. But ultimately, the presence and the necessity of it is still not justified. So the onboarding of them was not really rolled out, I think, in an effective way to the community where we were made aware of why this incident was being, or why this was being implemented. The bullet points that said this was to establish more safer presence in our school, maybe an uptick of unsafe events happening at ATIA. That information wasn't really rolled out in an effective way. The last point I'll bring up so I can kind of wrap up is in this qualitative and quantitative review of data, who is reviewing that data, and is there someone on that committee board that is providing a D&I perspective on it so that it's not just everyone loves them, everyone feels happy, everyone's safe, and all the numbers have gone down for our incidents. I think that's a limited scope on what these officers' presence should be measured as impacted on our kids. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
The remainder for the second
Second opportunity, okay. All right, next we'll move along to our consideration of resolutions, our consent agenda. We have the 24011 personnel report, the 24012 payroll warrants, the 24013 vendor warrants, the 24014 specialized transportation contract extension, 24015 food service purchasing cooperative agreement, the 24016 destruction of board recordings, and the 24017 Panorama SEL Universal Screener. Is there a motion and a second for approval?
So moved, Dolan.
Second, Kimmelovich.
Katie, may I have a roll call?
Dolan?
Aye.
Moon?
Aye.
Baumstark?
Aye.
Stefani?
Aye.
Supos?
Aye.
Kimmelovich?
Aye.
Nelson?
Aye. Motion carries. Next, we have the consideration of other resolutions with discussion and action. We start with the 24018 K through 5 Math Curriculum Resource Adoption presentation.
Hi, everybody. We're going to mosey on up here. I'll bring my own chair, too. We got our crew here.
Good mosey.
Wow, that's a big presentation.
I know, it's very serious. Math is very serious. It's a big group. Okay. So it's nice to see you all in this cozy little space. So I'm really excited to share with you tonight about our K-5 math education, bringing forward a solution that we think is best for our children. It's a best fit for our delivery of Illinois learning standards. It's an opportunity to really showcase what we do every day and future planning and thinking about our children and our classrooms and our staff in terms of math. So I do want to start by thanking our crew here. They'll introduce themselves as they speak, but they've been absolutely amazing, along with the entire pilot teaching crew. We turn their math education worlds upside down because they taught from the pilot programs, did an amazing job. Sort of extrapolated themselves off of the current resource we're using around September, got some pretty quick PD, and turned that into awesome learning experiences for our children. So thank you to you all, thank you to our full pilot team. One more expression of gratitude, that is for Jenny Bergeron. She is absolutely amazing, our math coach for the district. I can't say enough about how exceptional her work is. You're going to see it all tonight. This started 2 years ago, really, with some really visionary planning, and it's all coming to fruition tonight, so no pressure to the crew or to the board or anybody else, but here we go. We're going to launch into it. So with that, as everything we do, we're always aligning with the strategic plan. And I always like to connect to the vision versus the mission. And the main reason in my space and my belief is because we're always talking about the whole child. And even though we are indeed thinking about math education tonight, really we're thinking always about the whole child experience in all of our content areas, but that's the strongest connection that I feel to our strategic plan and that vision connection with the whole child. Of course, and actually, I don't know, Kathy, is this going to be the last presentation on these older? I'm
Well,
sad.
No.
No? Okay, close.
We'll let you present in April, May, and June.
Sorry to you all.
And the
but,
mission, vision.
Okay,
You're
so of course we're connected to our student success and well-being, and as I usually underline our deep learning experience that we want to provide to our children and ways that we can make that occur, and then our professional development for our educator growth and support, all aligned to our strategic plan. And I'm going to pass this over to Jenny, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Jenny Bergeron. Nice to see you all. So over the years, since the Common Core state standards have been adopted, a few themes have emerged that have caused us to consider whether our current Tier 1 math resource, Everyday Math, meets the needs of our District 34 students. As you can see from the points listed on this slide, the spiraling approach of Everyday Math has made assessing standards a challenge. Furthermore, the adoption of a new rigorous resource in middle school has emphasized foundational skills that have not been fully mastered by the start of 6th grade. For many years, teachers have had to supplement Everyday Math to increase the level of challenge for their highest achieving students. And last, as new editions of Everyday Math have become available, they have been continuously adopted without considering if they were meeting our needs in District 34.
Hi, I'm Lauren Halpern, first grade teacher at Hanking. As we started the journey to find a resource that might be a better fit for our community, we recognized that there may not be one single resource that meets our needs. Some of the components we wanted to be sure to look at in the resources we piloted are listed. So appropriate rigor for all levels of learners, strategies and lessons for differentiation, support and translations for EL and bilingual students, and resources and alignment for tiered instruction. In the 2022-2023 school year, we formed a math pilot resource selection committee, which was composed of around 40 teachers across the district from grades K-5, along with principals, coaches, and instructional innovation specialists. We had representation from special ed, dual language, and advanced math. We surveyed teachers throughout the resource selection process to ensure that all D34 certified staff who wanted to provide input to the selection process was able to do so. We started with a list of well over 20 resources to consider and narrowed it down to 6 resources that received a deeper dive. From those 6, that were displayed throughout all 6 elementary buildings for a week and a half at a time to allow teachers to check them out. We selected 2 to pilot in the 23-24 school year. These 2 resources were Go Math and iReady Classroom Math.
That skipped to a different part, which we can do. Sorry? Yeah, right there. Sarah Mervis, special education teacher at Glenview School. So both of the programs had an endless supply of both resources for all teachers, both at the advanced and lower levels. Some of the highlights of the program are shared here. One of the things that we found the most fascinating was that both programs were so very similar in so many ways. And that was noticed right away. So it was really exciting to be able to pilot both of them. And we, as we have finished the pilot, really were able to have a very good discussion about both programs, finding that there were just so many things available in both. They both begin with a diagnostic, they both allow for small group instruction, they both allow for an individualized pathway, They both have lots of different structures to ensure understanding at many different levels. They both use math discourse that involve investigation, inquiry, and discussion, as well as the WIDA-aligned supports, extensions for challenge and enrichment, as well as the ability to look at instruction on different levels for students who might be struggling or who might need some fundamental background skills. There were many teachers that were participating in the pilot, and you can see here, they spanned all of the grade levels and included lots of different areas, including dual language classrooms, EL co-teachers, special ed co-teaching, as well as advanced math. Having that representation span all of our student populations ensured that each subgroup's needs were going to be met.
Jen Nelson, Instructional Innovation Specialist at Westbrook. Throughout the 23-24 school year, all of our pilot teachers received in-person and follow-up training sessions from the publisher. We also held 2 check-in meetings for pilot teachers across the district to come together to share their experiences and learn about the opposite pilot. There was a smaller leadership group that formed as well, which was renamed the Flight Crew, who came together to dive deeper into the resources and act as liaisons between our staff at the schools and the district leadership. Additionally, during the pilot period, teachers had an opportunity to observe their colleagues using one or both of the pilots in pilot resources. We sought feedback from parents and students near the end of the pilot period, and teachers shared their feedback at 2 checkpoints in the school year prior to the final pilot evaluation meeting. At our 3rd and final meeting, pilot teachers engaged in sharing activities, and then all the pilot teachers each completed a final evaluation of all 3 programs in use this year. We rated the components that emerged as important to us back during the resource selection process, which had then been refined by the Flight Crew.
I'm Morgan Needsman. I teach 4th grade at Pleasant Ridge. This chart summarizes the student survey data. The column on the left shows how many students responded to the surveys, and the highlighted response was the most common response for each question. And you can see from this display that students had similar feelings towards both programs. Pilots. And then this chart summarizes the parent survey data in a similar manner. Parents were given 4 options: strongly agree, agree, neutral, or disagree. Agree and strongly agree were combined to represent favorable responses to the prompts as one line. And again, you can see parents had similar feelings about both pilots. The next slide we'll share with you has the view of teacher evaluation data.
The teachers' ratings for each of the 9 components we evaluated will be displayed in a graph like this one on the next slide. This is an example so I can explain how to read the graph. The amount of teachers that gave a meets or exceeds District 34 expectations rating for Go Math is represented by the blue bar. The purple bar represents iReady. The yellow bar represents Everyday Math. This graph shows that teachers had very similar opinions of Go Math and iReady. The dark red number that you see to the left of the graph is the collective group priority ranking of that component. So, there's a lot to look at on this slide, so we'll pause here after I say a few things. This slide shows all 9 of the components that the pilot teachers evaluated. Seeing all 9 of the results in this display all at once again emphasizes not only how similar the 2 programs that we piloted are, but also how strongly our teachers liked both of them. As you can see in these graphs, Go Math had slightly higher evaluations than iReady in most of the components. Therefore, Go Math is the Tier 1 math resource we are presenting to the board for adoption in the 24-25 school year. So we'll hang out on this slide for just a minute.
Is there people ask questions right now?
Sure. Okay.
Okay.
So I guess I had one question. So assessments, was that for state assessments? Was it for just each end of unit demonstration of learning? Like what does assessments mean?
Excellent. The assessments in this situation means the assessments that were provided by the program resource. So end of chapter tests, quizzes, unit summaries, exit, yeah, maybe I can let some of the teachers answer this one too. Yeah, it's pretty much things provided by the resource, but teachers.
Yeah, exit tickets, diagnostic tests, those things were included.
The diagnostic is kind of like MAP almost, that it is self-adjusting, so then it kind of creates a path for the kids to have their own kind of individualized instruction independently when they're working on the iPad. So that was really nice to have that.
And one conversation that we did have about assessments at our final meeting was that teachers tend to take a little bit of autonomy on with the assessments. They like to assess what they've been teaching and tweak it a little bit to meet exactly their needs. So Matt and I spoke a little bit about how there's probably never going to be a publisher-provided assessment that's exactly what our teachers want. They like to make cover sheets. They like to kind of rearrange things so it's presented in the way that's most comfortable for their students. So yeah, that was just a little bit more about assessments there.
Does anyone else have any thoughts?
Just a quick question, is there anything, and I understand what you said, is there anything that compares that against like a golden standard? You know, like these kids did this pilot, these kids did that pilot versus the everyday math, just to check the rigor of each, you know, compared to one another?
I think the everyday math was kind of what our control group was. So all the teachers in the pilot had already been teaching with everyday math for the last many, many years. And then throughout the whole process, they did a lot of different activities and observations and participated in a lot of just sharing opportunities to learn about the opposite pilot and also share their own. So all of this data comes from each teacher evaluating all three of them. So it wasn't just that teachers, you know, only ranked what they piloted. So I guess to answer your question, the control group was the everyday math, but
Which makes sense because you said they've been teaching it for a long time.
Yes, very long time.
Diane?
Hi, Jenny. I'm just curious to know, so it sounds like from looking at the graphs that the feedback was basically anything but everyday math is recommended. I can't say I'm completely surprised. Can you just kind of give us a little overview, like what has changed in the thinking about, what's the shift been in the thinking about teaching math since we went to everyday math? Because I remember that very well.
Well, I think maybe Matt could add on to this, but my first response to that is the spiraling really was a very strong part of everyday math. And I think with where we're at right now with standards-based grading, the spiraling approach, it's hard for teachers to assess the mastery of something when students visit it and then they leave it and they come back to it and they leave it. So both of the programs we piloted, and this was one of the components that we found important in our work to select which programs to pilot, but both of these programs taught to mastery before moving on. And of course they revisit and review, but you kind of finish that standard or strand before you move on to the next. And the teachers in the pilot kind of unanimously really seemed to like teaching that way.
Sure.
So the everyday math that, as was said earlier, that was continuously just adopted and readopted, they just keep having that spiral approach, which doesn't quite meet what we need anymore.
Yeah, and believe it or not, Common Core was adopted by the state of Illinois around 2010, 2011. And there was interpretation of those standards. I think over time, sort of staying within our resource, we interpreted the standards relative to this sort of myopic cycle. And what does that mean? So the level of difficulty, I think, is going to be a little bit of a shock to our system. Both programs were rigorous beyond what we maybe thought at each grade level, and I'm glad everybody's kind of shaking their heads. So we certainly think it's going to elevate the depth of our math teaching and math achievement, that's for sure. And year over year, it's going to take some time for us to acclimate to this reinterpretation, whatever the math is on that, 20 years later, since all of that Common Core came online, that we're probably going to be at par as to the original intention of raising math rigor.
Sure. One thing that kind of catches my attention, though, in looking at this too, though, is the digital components feedback, and I'm wondering, how much of a problem is that working with students, just seeing as how it sounds like there's pretty strong feedback that this digital components may or may not be the strong suit of some of these programs, the newer ones. Can you give a comment to just how do we address that? And is that even really important? Have we gone back to not using the digital components as much?
I think part of what factored in is some of our younger students, kindergarten and first grade, had a very quick entry into this digital component of the program. And Matt and I have been sharing with kind of teacher groups that we've been talking to and making as many public service announcements as we can that the use of the digital components will be rolled out in an age-appropriate and readiness fashion, which is different than how the pilot experienced it. We kind of jumped in both feet right away and have learned through the pilot that we need to go a little slower with our younger learners. And I think that could be maybe where this piece of digital kind of is number 6 in our hierarchy there of priorities. But once they're actually in and engaged, the digital components, and maybe the teachers could speak to this better, were really well received by the kids and the teachers. Anybody wants to say anything else about the digital?
Dying to. I think one of the great things about the digital experience and what we learned about it and why there was, kind of a difference there is one that also, we dove in with the kids, but so did the teachers. And so the teachers didn't know necessarily like the depth of what they could do with things. And it slowly was figured out, and some teachers have a much greater aptitude for those things, and so it was really easy for them to be like, oh, I figured out how to do X, Y, Z, and even at our later meetings, there were teachers that were like, oh, I didn't know you could do that. So, there's a piece of it that, we are going to be able to be such a great resource for the teachers who are going to be trained. And the other piece of it is that you can see that it's rated 6th, and the reason is because obviously the priority is, in-person teaching and kids learning from and learning with each other, not putting them on technology. So it's an amazing complement for the program that really enhances what they're doing and kind of sneaks fun in for those kids that for math, it's like, oh, math, it makes it like, oh, math. So I think that that's really a good piece.
Thank you.
I just have one last question, if I could. The qualitative is very clear here that it's supported by teachers, supported by parents, supported by the students. What do we what should we expect with the move from everyday math to either program in terms of actual growth from the students? And I know it's too early, although it's never too early for me to ask these questions, Matt. So add it to the queue of data analysis that I'm curious about. But what do we anticipate? And if we don't get the results that we expect, do we have a plan B?
Great question. Matt, I don't know, do you want to take this one?
Well, sure. So
I did have something to say, but if you can take it. I feel like I'm monopolizing the microphone.
So just because we're all friends here, and YouTube is, we did analyze student data, but really we're comparing potentially apples and oranges. We didn't actually start full teaching October, so there was a start to the school year. There was actually some introduction with children and math through everyday math to get the year going. We did see very interesting, positive orientation towards our pilot programs, just though from fall to winter map and some Ames Web information, but that's 2 months, 3 months in the program. It was promising. Jenny and I were super excited. If you all want to be super excited, that's great too, but it's really too soon. But definitely, it will, I mean, that's the bottom line. That's the goal of all of this, the purpose of all of that. Your Plan B question, I think what it would evolve around is the opportunity for ultimately small group instruction. The core lessons are the core lessons, and they're intended to sort of orientate children to grade level content. But beyond that, the magic in any of our content area is differentiating up or down to meet the needs of children, which will move them, push them in either direction they need to go in terms of maximizing their potential. You know, does that translate into higher IAR scores? Yeah, and that's what we're striving for. So we'll hopefully see that. Jenny, I don't know, or anybody else.
Well, a lot of that is what I was also going to say, but
All right, good. We
no,
didn't
Matt,
that part.
Matt and I were really excited when we were looking at the NEWA data and the Ames web data, and we had Lauren looking at some data with us too, and it was just so exciting. But when we tried to, we wanted to share all of this great growth with our pilot teachers groups and with, in this presentation today, but as Matt said, you're kind of comparing apples to oranges in some ways, because there's so many factors that have gone into the assessments this year. And while we'd like to think it's these amazing pilots that have caused this outstanding growth, it's hard to say which factors have factored in. So we did compare, everyday math against the pilots, and we saw wonderful growth with the pilots. We saw good growth with everyday math, but we saw wonderful growth within the pilots. So we're excited.
So directionally, it's going where we want.
Yes.
Even though we can't say it statistically, Matt. So what I'm saying is that we've got a hypothesis and we feel like we've got a baseline to which to.
Yes.
Okay. All right. That's all I wanted to ask.
Perfect.
Okay, I have just one quick question too. How does this connect with the middle school math curriculum? Is it going to make any differences there? Is it going to be better, neutral, worse, or how do you think about that question?
I love these questions. This is so exciting.
We still got more slides, too.
So as you know, we adopted the new 6-8 program last year, and that one also was providing more rigor for our 6-8 students. And something that over the years, 6th grade teachers have kind of noticed or felt is that possibly due to the spiraling of everyday math or possibly due to unknown factors, students aren't necessarily coming in very strong with certain skills. And having a program that addresses or teaches content in isolation a little bit more than the spiral, I'm very excited to see how that's going to affect middle school, because the domains all change. For K5 has the same domains, and then 6-8 it's a whole new set of domains. So while a 4th grader and a 5th grader, they see the same thing and one builds upon the next, in 6th grade that's where everything kind of resets, except for the geometry strand, but all the other strands change. You've got ratios and proportions now instead of number sense. So the students will come in with kind of like a finalization of those K5 strands in a way that I don't think we've really quite experienced before, and I hope that we see that difference in 6th grade. I've been preparing the 6th grade teachers, you're going to love this, you're going to love the years to come. So hopefully, I don't know if that answers your question.
Jim was a math teacher.
So you know what I'm talking about.
All right, we'll move on.
These are some of the Cecilia Hagest, 4th grade dual at Hoffman. Thank you for your time. These are some of the highlights that are seen here. The learning structure of the program, it will engage, explore, explain, elaborate, and evaluate the program. The children will have that opportunity. It has opportunity for small group instruction, for mini lessons, for centers, for differentiated instruction, Tier 2 and Tier 3 reinforcement. It also allows for math discourse, providing opportunities for math talk, collaboration among students. It encourages math discourse and opportunities for investigation and discussion among the math lessons. It also provides opportunities for teacher autonomy and personalization of the lessons to meet the students' needs. This engaging and rigorous program will be a great fit for all learners in District 34. It builds towards proficiency, that's our goal.
by building on the previous understanding of the mathematical concepts. With the individualized instruction, it provides additional centers, differentiation, and tier 2 and 3 reinforcement with the same program. We don't have to use another program to do that, and that was another one of the positives. With the Math Talk, it allows for a collaboration with academic vocabulary for all your learners, and it provides opportunities of all language, and both languages can be addressed, Spanish and English. It also provides a measurement benchmark within the program, and that assesses each student automatically, and it places the student into a personalized practice based on domain and grade level readiness, and provides also the teacher with timely insights into proficiency. The digital component called Waggle, it's available in English and in Spanish, and it is personalized. Every child will get what they need, and we really value that. And the digital component also complements the lessons that happen during the day or during the week, and it supports the students where they need to be, and it helps us with skill gaps that we might be finding. Engagement, which is very important. The Go Math supports for multilingual learners for every lesson, and it provides additional proficiency level for small groups, and it is also aligned to WIDA, so it covers many of our needs.
While it's still in development, we have an idea of what our training and professional development will look like for the implementation school year. This spring, a small group of teachers will come together to modify the report card standards and create pacing guides. We also are planning for teachers to receive their Go Math manuals, digital access, and manipulatives prior to the end of this school year. As we transition from this school year to the next over the summer months, building leadership will receive an overview of Go Math and their own training for how to support teachers. Then on August 20th, one of the days before school starts, we'll have a full day with our HMH trainers where half the day will be specific training and the second half will include team collaboration with the trainers available to guide us and participate in Q&A with the teachers. Our September Institute Day will be a 30-day checkpoint with our trainer and more team collaboration time around the new resource. We'll also dedicate at least 3 Wednesday morning PD sessions through the 24-25 school year to have a math focus. Additionally, we will receive a set of Coachly licenses, which is a support option from HMH that will connect designated coaches and other District 34 staff directly with HMH coaches for continuous ongoing support through direct messaging, video, and in-person meetings throughout the year. We'll also make time for grade level teachers to come together across the district for the chance to connect, plan, and learn together during our first year with Go Math.
All right, so we did Eric's favorite thing, and we braided. We braided funding. So we've been thinking about this for years, and I was able to take advantage of some pre-ESSER money to sort of project out what we thought the potential costs were going to be to bring this program to our classrooms. And so what you're seeing actually is fiscal year 24, next fiscal year, Title IV, which is actually professional development entitlement grant money. So we receive it for its federal money and then filtered down through the Illinois State Board. But it fits in nicely here. And then, as I mentioned, some ESSER money that I was able to pre-purchase through my operating budget and then apply that money here. So each child, 2,650, would receive their math book, which is a consumable. So they write in the book, they consume it, and every year, as we currently do, this is a recurring cost that we currently purchase for our children, is a workbook, and then they would have their subscription to Waggle, if you will. So that will be an ongoing cost, as it always has been, even with everyday math. The one-time cost is bringing the manipulative kits into our classrooms, all the hands-on packaging and the literature resources and everything else that would be brought in the classrooms. That's a one-time purchase for around 210 teachers. And then you can see the initial training that would lean on the publisher for as we gain our working knowledge, around $40,000, but dramatically reduced as we learn the program ourselves and become our best trainers in-house. Sadly, the shipping was way more. This is Jenny's magic. She badgered the company to reduce that, but it's a reminder that we got to get all this stuff here, and we do pay for that just to be transparent. But her bargaining with her math and brain and use of skills. But at the end of the day, that's what we're seeking for your approval tonight to move forward with this purchase. Again, hopefully from our presentation information, you feel comfortable. We know this is the best fit for our children, the best use of our math money, and it will set us up for the future. So with that, I don't know if you have any further questions or...
Does anyone else have any more questions?
Just out of curiosity, how does the recurring cost compare to the current solution?
It's surprisingly very close. It's about $10,000 more in this format, but again, that's just been repurchasing everyday math in an older edition year over year. So all things considered, it's very close.
Anyone else? I'm just happy to get to meet Jen Nelson. That's my wife's name. Thank you so much for your presentation. It's awesome that the teachers were able to spend so much time evaluating a new math program for our students. We really appreciate all the extra work you guys did this year, and I hope this makes it better for our students.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask for a motion and a second to approve the K-5 math curriculum resource as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Katie, may I have a roll call?
Kamalevich.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Moon.
Aye.
Dolan.
Aye.
Baumstark.
Aye.
Stefani.
Aye.
Supos.
Aye.
Motion carries. So, Matt,
Thank you. Thank you so much.
our expectations are high. Next, we have the 24019 acceptance of donation from Endeavor Health. Kathy, can you speak to it a little?
Yeah, I received a check in the mail from Endeavor Health. My contact over there had sent a check for $1,000 to be used for our underserved youth within our schools. So Raquel and I are going to work on where to direct those funds to increase belonging for our students.
Thanks. Can I have a motion and a second to approve the donation from Endeavor Health as presented?
So moved, Moon.
Second. Baumstark.
Katie, may I have another roll call?
Nelson.
Aye.
Stefani.
Aye.
Supos.
Aye.
Kamalevich.
Aye.
Baumstark.
Aye.
Dolan.
Aye.
Moon.
Aye.
Thank you.
Next, we have the 24020 resolution for non-renewal of probationary teachers. Can I ask for a motion and a second to approve the resolution as presented? The following teacher will be released as a probationary teacher at the end of the 2023-2024 school term. Etan Chitman. I need a motion and a second to approve the resolution for dismissal as teacher as presented.
So moved, Kamalevich.
Second. Dolan.
The board would like to thank Etan for his service to the students of District 34. Can I have a roll call, Katie?
Supos.
Aye.
Kamalevich.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Dolan.
Aye.
Moon.
Aye.
Baumstark.
Aye.
Stefani.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, now we come to our presentation and discussion, 2024-2025 staffing allocations.
Thank you. Good evening. We spoke briefly at the last Board of Education meeting about this topic, just to sort of summarize what we would bring forward this evening. The memo that the board received provides a high-level summary of the staffing needs for the 24-25 school year. Annually, this takes several months of work, so we look at this plan in a comprehensive manner, taking into account the various needs of the district. We're very proud of the many programs and support services we're able to provide to students and their families annually. We, of course, need to look at what those needs are as well as what we can afford. I've talked before in this forum about how salary and benefits equate to approximately a little bit under 80% of our total expenditures for the district, so it's a significant expenditure and investment in all the work that we do for our families. And of course, our staff, as a human organization, are the lifeblood of our organization. The charts attempt to summarize everyone in the district that works in a certified or support staff role. So there's a lot to look at. And this is not loading. LRC 1?
At Tia Cafe.
No, at Tia Cafe.
Oh,
No worries.
I was just trying to stress you out.
Thank you. I turned to Brian right before walking up here and said, "Is the LRC 1?" And he said, "Yes."
This just points out that we don't have a home for ourselves. We just rotate around building.
This is cozy. We're liking this, but, so, just as a high-level summary, I spoke last meeting about the three main levers that drive staffing, and we have an enrollment-driven lever, so things like how many second-grade teachers will we need across the district. We have caseload or services-driven, so how many children on IEPs and what specific services they need in the areas of LBS 1 staff, speech language, et cetera. And then we have programs that we support with just a standard staffing allocation, such as a librarian in every district, in every building rather, or other specific, not driven by enrollment or the level of service to students. So to summarize then what's being brought forth for discussion this evening, in the enrollment-driven category, so again, how many X grade teachers we would need, we're looking at 3 FTE more this next year as compared to this year, driven basically by where children are projected to fall within the schools and the grades that they attend. The second section of that chart is driven by the first, so, when we have X number of 5th grade students, we then need a certain amount of art FTE, PE, et cetera. So there's a small increase in that section, just 0.7 increase. The section beneath that begins to address building-wide or program-based recommendations for staffing. So we do see in that section the return to better ability to predict the number of children who are on IEPs, and therefore the 2-year bridge that we utilize the student services specialists. We see that being less of a critical area to support in that manner with some offset in LBS 1 staffing. So there's a decrease of 5 in that section and an offsetting increase of +2 for LBS 1 staffing. You've heard this evening some commentary about our proposal to move to a different service delivery model for reading enrichment at the primary level. That would involve a decrease of a few FTE, 1.5 to be exact.
So it's a different model. We're not removing it, we're changing how we're delivering it.
The intention would be to service the needs of our high primary readers through our current curriculum instruction model for reading and writing. Yes. And then we have other staff who also would support children's extension needs, LRC directors, instructional innovation specialists. So there's a team approach that I think goes into meeting the needs of children with the grade level teams. We would always be striving to meet the needs of all of our students, and sometimes service delivery can change. The memo talked about how we're 6 years into the implementation of our current reading language arts approach, and this position has existed prior to our current delivery model. Finally, preschool remains fairly consistent with a small increase in the music and movement FTE, and so the total summary of the recommended FTE for certified is 6 fewer FTE. And then on the support side, it's reasonably consistent with just a small decrease of 1.0 FTE. The numbers are a little bit different on each of the lines, just based on where primarily our student services educational associates would need to be assigned because of children's IEPs or program assignments, et cetera. But the bottom line FTE is reasonably flat at -1. I'd be happy to entertain any questions from the board.
Anyone want to ask a question? Diane?
I don't have a question, I have a comment. I have to reiterate my concern about removing FTEs that work directly with students. The one thing I've witnessed in all my time on the board and from my time prior to being on the board is that we have tried to stay away from removing those staff that work directly with students that have different needs. And, these cuts unfortunately do exactly that. And I'm deeply concerned about them. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. I agree with the teachers that came to speak with us before. I don't see how this, I think there's other ways.
Thank you.
Anyone else have a question or comment? I did have a question. This is a projection, correct?
Correct.
So if all of a sudden everybody moves to Glenview and we have a bunch of new students, we'll make the adjustments.
Well, we would come to the board and request additional FTE, and that's what we've done in the past. So if it were to be in a specific area, children, what I mean by that is children that require a certain service, then that might be in the area of like an LBS 1 staffing, EL staffing, et cetera. If it would be an enrollment-driven thing, like suddenly we're bursting at a grade level at a given school, that would be a gen ed homeroom FTE addition. But yes, the short answer to your question is we come back to the board and we look to adjust.
So
As
yeah,
we've
and
done
if-
the last several years.
Yeah, so in the fall, if our needs are different and you assess that we need more FTE in certain sections or certain areas, you'd ask the board for the money to do that.
Yes.
If the numbers, like in a classroom, go above, like I forgot what the number is.
It varies by level. It's at the
Oh,
top
right,
of
right, yeah, that's right. If it goes above that, like in the middle of the year, do you make adjustments, or is that just at the beginning of the year?
So we view those on a case-by-case basis. We work closely with the principal and the team, and we talk about what the options are. It's obviously not necessarily ideal to break up a class, so we talk about other ways to support. Sometimes we add additional support staff. Sometimes we look at the way that this, depending on the level, we look at how the schedule is laid out and how the children are dispersed throughout the day. If at the primary, that's less relevant, but at intermediate and middle, sometimes there are program implications. For example, children that get regrouped for math, et cetera.
Right.
So it we look at those each as an individual case-by-case basis and try to support as best we can. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
So I just want to reiterate that the boards also fiscally have to stay within the constraints of the money that we have. So part of that is part of this the conversation that we're having. I mean, as we got presented last month by CFAC, we're operating with 2/3 of the money that the other districts that go to District 225. So we're trying to provide the best or better services with a lot less resources. So I do want the community to know that we've been operating under a structural deficit for many years, and it's starting to come true.
Yes, I didn't speak to that directly, but in the memo, I kind of highlight the fact that every year, and increasingly so, as we've heard recently, as you just pointed out, Scott, taking the financial considerations very seriously into the planning of this entire comprehensive, FTE proposal.
Yeah, I just think it's important the community knows that we're trying to do our best with what we have.
Indeed.
And we can ask for more if they'd like to give it to us. Anyone else with any questions?
Do you happen to know what the enrollment projection changes from, in the aggregate from current to the down? Is it turning down slightly?
The actual full district-wide enrollment projection is fairly flat, but where they fall by grade and by level is what ends up driving some of the differences, because, the ratios of homeroom teachers to children is smaller at the
It's fairly flat, even just a little bit down? I mean,
I think it's a little bit down. The report that I provided the board in, I think, January, talked about a single digit maybe, or under 20 difference in the number of projected total students.
okay, it's pretty flat.
Yeah, it's pretty flat.
I was just trying to see if the decline in enrollment was consistent with the decline in the projected FTE need.
Well, no, actually, we see a slight increase in what we're going to need at the grade level staffing up 3. But then some of the other programmatic things are based on either service delivery models that we're seeing a smaller number of children in certain areas and a change in delivery model. And as Scott said, if something were to change drastically from what projections indicate, then we would come back to the board and respond accordingly.
So next month, we'll be voting on this proposal.
Yes.
Yes, please.
Any more questions? All right, we'll see you in April.
See you in April. Thank you.
Next, we have the mass notification solution. Kathy?
Thank you. Our contract for our current resource for connecting with our community through email, text, and phone calls, which we use sparingly. The phone calls, everything else we use all over the place, comes up at the end of this school year, so it's good timing because that system has been decreasing in effectiveness. We have seen that some messages have not been going out either by text or email, so we've been looking at new options, and we are excited to share that Bright Arrow, which is a system that we had used previously, has much improved over the years, and we will have some really robust resources for two-way text communication and translation, and a mobile app where parents can receive their messages and have them all in one place if they so choose. So we will be rolling that out internally with some training at the end of this year, and parents will probably not see much difference other than having more effective communication starting with the next school year.
I'm assuming it's more optimized for mobile.
Yeah. Yep.
Any questions or thoughts? All right, thanks, Kathy. Next, we have the All-Town Contract Extension. Eric.
Good evening. So tonight, the board voted on the Safeway one-year contract extension, and tonight we're bringing forward the Gen Ed transportation contract one-year extension with Alltown. This is we're completing our 10th year now, which based on some laws that have recently passed may change how we address transportation contracts moving forward, but for this next year we're looking at a 10.8% increase, and that seems to be typical for the market right now. Unfortunately, we have no other school districts with 3 tiers of start times to compare ourselves to, but I feel as though this is a good renewal based on a relationship. And the only other piece that I'd like to add is, based on the projected number of routes, not just the cost, the overall Gen Ed cost we project to be similar next year as it is to this year.
Any questions? They've been a good partner for us for 10 years, haven't they?
I think so.
Well, if you're saying the cost is going to be the same, that means that we're going to have less usage to offset the price increase?
Correct. That's right.
Okay. That seems like a lot of usage decline. We can cut our bus usage by 10%.
We can.
People are moving closer together, maybe?
Primarily, I would say it has to do with the AM middle activity routes that just don't have the same.
We have some underutilized routes and some efficiencies that we can develop as a result of that.
And wasn't Safeway like a 3% increase?
Yes.
As I recall? Any thoughts on why this one's so different, or like what?
Well, if you remember, a couple years ago, we had a larger increase with Safeway.
Yeah.
Substantially
No, a
larger.
big one from
Yeah.
Safeway.
When we first got in with Safeway, it was a very...
30%.
At
wasn't it?
least,
Forgot about that.
at least, yeah.
I'm not looking forward to next year. All right, thanks. We'll talk about this in April. Now we're to our second audience comments. This is the second opportunity for comments. Anyone wishing to address the board can submit a comment card available at the check-in table and give it to the Executive Director of Communications and Strategic Planning. The Executive Director will call community members who submit cards forward. They will be asked to introduce themselves and describe their relationship to the district. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. And please know that the board will be taking notes, but we will be in listening mode only. And an appropriate response will be given in a timely manner. We ask that you submit one comment per opportunity. Kathy, do we have any comments?
We do.
Okay.
Latham Bell.
Hello, good evening, everyone. I'm Latham Bell. I have 2 sons at Pleasant Ridge. Is it possible, before we start, could you pull up that first slide about the SRO where you have 1 in 28 incidents and the amount of civil proceedings that you had up? That original slide?
I can pull that up.
The reason I'm asking for it is because some of the language up there was very misleading about a civil proceedings going in front of a judge. That would be a criminal matter, not a civil matter. So that was very misleading when you had it up.
That's not what we're trying to do.
That's our YouTube feed. It's behind.
There we go.
I maybe should push it back a little bit. Okay.
That's you live.
So, thank you all for doing such a challenging job. You know, you cannot please everybody, so I get it. So, you guys approved the SRO, and was your goal to work on the kids' emotional, social, or academic needs? If so, is there a reason why we did not hire qualified counselors to play that role? Because I looked at the videos looked wonderful, as if though the SRO officers are doing an amazing job, and I believe that they are. But what about the kids that they can't reach, who need that emotional support that can come from a counselor, or the social aspect that a police officer just can't give? And I have a lot of friends that are police officers, so I support all of their efforts and what they're trying to do, but I just don't understand why so many schools are moving away from the SRO, and it seems like you guys are pushing forward. And feel free to ask me a question, because some of the things I'm thinking, did you bring a SRO in to stop bullying or school shootings? Because we know from the data that there have been some school shootings that have occurred. Some have had SRO officers, and it did not prevent them. And my goal here is to say, how do we get them out of the school and bring in, like, listening to the teachers, the first grade teachers? It totally derailed what I wanted to say about SRO, because their plight is very important. It's so significant in getting that education back to them and all the kids, and the math and things like that for the K through 5. Those things are critical. Why are we pushing the SRO? That is my question I want to leave you with. So,
Thank you for your comments.
and how much time do I have left?
You got another minute.
I'd like to yield it to
You do.
Tricia Moyan.
If that's
What you can do is board me.
You are signed up to speak, so go ahead. There you go.
We already have your name.
I really am just going to a double thank you to my husband. I'll be fast because I just got to double down on just a point, which kind of had time to, as he said, listening to the limited resources, very empathetic to what Diane brought about, like when we reduce FTEs. It just seems like our priorities are not cohesive and where we really can invest, our money. And so back to the SROs, I just listened with intent, which is, are we really putting a sledgehammer to a nail? And are we thinking of the collateral damage that slam creates, which means a lot of times in medicine, the thing we prioritize is to save the many and spare the, and the people who are harmed in the process of it. We kind of try to measure that as, well, we got to help as many people as we can, triaging and casualties, and there are always going to be some casualties. When that casualty looks like my son, I really have a really key component to say that this is something that needs to be thoughtful about. And the last part is kind of just taking the mantra from what I do practice in medicine at Endeavor Health, which is first, do no harm. When I walk into a room with a patient, I can come up with the most elaborate plan for treating cancer, which is what I do for a living, but I always have to think the first thing I have to do is no harm. So we have to be very considerate of that lens. The optics look great, but I'm going to project a different optic. As my husband has said, the CPS school is pulling away from SROs, trying to come up with more comprehensive ways to deal with the very problems that I'm sure can arise here in our schools. The optics of the CPS programs pulling away from SROs and us pushing for them, I'm just sorry. Being a South Sider growing up in the city of Chicago, a product of CPS schools and a successful one at that, this just formally doesn't make sense to me. So those are my comments. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Rachel True.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Rachel True. I have 3 children in Glenview 34, and I'm just here to talk about the enrichment program, and also EL a little bit, even though I have no experience with it directly. My daughter Naomi is in 2nd grade, and she is in the enrichment program, and I was really curious how she would react knowing that this program, which would never impact her, that it's going away potentially, the reaction she would have to learn that, and she was really upset. Those 2 hours of her week are her favorite 2 hours of her week. She loves Mrs. Malnor. She feels challenged there. She said she learns things in that class that she can apply to every other thing she does, which I thought was, for a 2nd grader, a pretty mature thing to say. And this program touches so many children, as does EL. And the idea that these children won't get supported in this way, and that those roles will fall to their teachers that are already doing so many things, having to be masters at juggling their classrooms all the time and meeting these kids' needs all the time, which are across the spectrum. I just wanted to say that I would urge everyone, and I'm happy to help, even though I haven't done it before, to look at the budget and just see if there's any way to pull the money from employees who are not directly impacting the children. Because maybe you look at like the children in the enrichment program and think, oh, they're doing well, they don't need the support, but they do need the support. All of the kids need the support. They just need different support, and the enrichment teachers do such an amazing job with that, and I would hate to see that pulled. And then when I think about the EL children who are probably underrepresented in these meetings because, their parents may not speak English, and I just want to say on their behalf as well that, if I had a child who, we had to move to a different country and they needed that support and it was pulled from me, I would probably look to go to another school district at that point. With enrichment, I won't do that, but I don't want to see that happen here where we can't support the same level of diversity that we have been able to support and that the communities surrounding us seem to be able to support. So that's all short and sweet.
Thank you very
I
much.
to go after Katie Jones, so I could just say what she said. But
Katie Jones.
Former board member, Katie Jones.
I just missed Brian's smile so much I had to come. I am Katie Jones, and I am a parent of a 3rd grader at Pleasant Ridge and a kindergartner at Lyon.
I am here on behalf of the many children who have benefited from the Reading Enrichment Program over the years, including my third grade daughter, who had an amazing opportunity to work with Carrie Melnor in first and second grade at Lyon. I also cannot say enough kind things about how phenomenal Carrie is at working with this population of students, but that's a topic for another day. While I understand that the intent of this change is directed at the delivery system of the program and that enrichment itself will not be going away, I am here because I believe that the current model is the only measurable way to ensure that the children are being met and challenged at their appropriate reading levels. It will be difficult to monitor the success of this new model. By pulling students out of the classroom, it allows them to be challenged at the level that they need while pairing them with students of similar abilities. It allows them to engage in rich, thoughtful discussions and takes reading to a different level by promoting critical thinking, creativity, and fostering a deeper understanding of related language arts concepts. We already ask so much of our classroom teachers. The spectrum of reading ability is so vast at the first and second grade level that the classroom teachers cannot possibly have the resources nor the time to differentiate the way that the current enrichment program does. All means all. This has been the district's philosophy for the last few years. By changing the delivery of this particular service, I believe that this segment of the student population will be underserved. And therefore, we will not be measuring up to the standards that we as District 34 have set for ourselves. I am asking the administration and the board to reconsider the restructuring of this program. I understand that we are operating in a budget deficit, but I implore you to find an alternative place in the budget to reduce costs and leave the current structure of the enrichment program untouched. And I'm going to turn it over to my daughter.
Savannah.
Hi, my name is Savannah Jones. I'm a third grader at Pleasant Ridge. I was in Reading Enrichment in first and second grade at Lyon School. Reading Enrichment was my favorite part of the week. I loved how it was challenging, and we learned things like idioms, similes, and onomatopoeias. I liked being pulled out because I was working with a small group of students that at the same level of reading as me. Also because it was not overwhelming as a classroom with 20 and over kids. I hope you keep the Reading Enrichment program so that future students can get more challenging teaching they need. Miss Mariner was one of my favorite teachers, and I hope other students get the opportunity to be with Miss Malinor. Thank you for listening. Do any of you have questions or comments?
Ms. Melnor is awesome.
I hope to see you fishing this summer. Thank you.
Thank you. Kai Okuda.
Hello. Good evening, everyone. So my name is Kyle Puta. I have a third grader and a fifth grader at Pleasant Ridge, and I have lived in Glenview for about 11 years. I would like to thank you all for all of the hard work that you do looking out for our children. And I'm here to voice my concerns about the resource officers. I think at this point, a lot of the points that I have already been made, but I think they are important enough to make again. If I could just follow up with Dr. Mouillon's comment on Chicago. So Chicago just unanimously voted to get rid of their resource officers. And this is a decision that I follow very closely because I knew it was something that was on our radar here. And some of the rationale that they gave were that the Black students, the Latino students, and the students with disabilities were disproportionately negatively impacted by having resource officers. And this was due to higher rates of suspension, higher rates of being kicked out of school, higher rates of having 911 called on them. So you can imagine, as I'm sitting here as the parent of a little black boy, that I have a lot of apprehension with him going to Springman next year. I mean, I have apprehension with him going to middle school anyway, but to have him walking into this middle school and to have to encounter police officers patrolling the school. And, I feel like I'm very appreciative of the Glenview Police Department. I guess I'll start there. And my kid loves High Five Day just as much as the next one. But for me, I think we should leave police officers where they are now, patrolling the community. And really, that's it. I don't feel it's appropriate to have police officers in the hallways of our schools. I feel like when our children go to school, that is the place for them to be children. That is a place for them to learn. That is a place for them to have fun. And I think from a social, emotional perspective, I think that will be tainted by having police officers monitoring the halls. I think that's it. Thank you. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for your comments tonight. That's it. Thanks for all comments. I really appreciate people coming and talking to us. Next, we have a report section. We have the number 1 FOIA report, number 2 construction change order report, number 3 referendum expense report, number 4 monthly budget report, number 5 current year financial projections, number 6 the following meeting agenda. Any thoughts?
I have one comment.
Sure.
Hey, Eric, with the financial projections, can we just find money? I think it'd be a lot easier for us to do a lot of things if we just were able to find some more money.
Yeah.
Come on, Eric.
Come on, Eric.
Is that rhetorical?
Yes, sir. It was rhetorical.
All right, next we'll go to other business. No other business? If not, we're adjourned. Thanks, everybody, for coming.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I just